Hi, Sharad. Thank you so much for taking the time to join us. I'm Thanmai. I'm the co-founder of SafetyConnect. And through this podcast, we want to really help the people in the safety fraternity learn from your experience. And for everybody, a little bit about Sharad. So Sharad is a global VP and group head of EHS and sustainability at Cipla. He has tremendous experience in this space, and he's worked with companies like Shell, Mondelez, AstraZeneca in the past. Sharad, would you like to add a little bit more about your experience?
No, just an engineer who is trying to learn and trying to be best at what the field offers, and it's a journey of continuous improvement and having a strong learning agility. That's all, Tanmay. Thank you for having me here today. It's my pleasure, and I really look forward.
So Sharad, very curious to understand, right? So why did you get into safety and sustainability?
Yeah, so it's something that naturally came to me for a couple of reasons. So I'm a person who was very strong technically in my role. So I knew a lot of technical. My base was very strong as a chemical engineer and a petroleum and reservoir engineer. So when it came to designing or when it came to establishing if the current manufacturing units and operations were safe, design plays a key role. And I transitioned myself well from being a process operations engineer to a process engineer to a process safety engineer to a EHS or an HSC, environment health safety or health safety and environment, and a professional. So it was a gradual transition towards it, and along the way I picked up many things. So it was my natural transition towards that, and over the last 15-20 years I have built a lot of passion for the environment as well. So along with it, the sustainability side of it fit in very well, and that's the purpose I have. So my purpose is always to make sure that there is zero harm, there is positivity for the environment. That means whatever we do, there is least pressures on the environment and its natural resources, because only one planet. As of now, Mr. Bezos and Mr. Whatever Branson's or the Elon Musk's, all the misters are trying many things. But currently what we have is we have only one globe and we have to do a lot of good things for the world.
Yeah, very interesting that you mentioned about how these people are trying to make Mars habitable, right? I think it's a very interesting concept, but I think it's very frightening to kind of think of that, right?
Yeah.
Going and staying on a red planet, staying in an artificial environment.
Yeah.
So yeah,
and that too, making sure that you travel for good 7 to 10 months.
Yeah, and surviving.
Right? And survive. So a lot of things. Why not fix it right here, if we can?
Yeah, absolutely. Now, talking about fixing it, right? Fixing sustainability challenges, fixing safety-related challenges. A lot of we see that there are a lot of very innovative people who are in the safety space, who want to really bring about change, who want to make a difference, who want to put a good process in place. But how does one go about really showing the ROI to the leadership or the management and the business? So what's the right way to do that?
Yeah, that's a very good question, Thanmai. And let me tell you that, see, safety doesn't have a tangible result. That means it's not like a sales and marketing where I push more marketing and I get sales, and I push more products with my suppliers or my vendors or my distributors in the market, and I get to see more products flowing out in the market and getting the sales. So it's not proportional and it's not directly tangible. Safety is indirectly tangible, but it does have a return on investment. And what we all need to understand is that there is a return on investment. And let me give you a very simple example to make and substantiate this point. If a company is worth, say, about 10,000 crores, okay, just above $1 billion in India, typically such companies, I'm taking the entire spectrum of whether you take a software services or a services company, banking software, to all the way till heavy industries, which is mining and oil and gas and things, everything in between them. Some of these industries are highly automated. Some of these industries are not that automated. There is a, but if you take an example of, say that there is a 10,000 crores organization, market capital or revenues. Let me take the word revenues. That would be the right metric. So if we have 10,000 crores of revenues organization, typically the amount of people in that organization will range anywhere from about 2,000 people to about 15,000 people. Now we'll take something in middle and we will say about 7,000 to 8,000 people. Let's take the number as 7,000. Okay. Now, if we look at across all the industries, okay, every industry has a sales and marketing or a business development team with them. These people have to go on field. And then there is equally another set of professionals that come along with them after their work is done, which is the services team. That means someone has to go and service a client, someone has to go and do something offsite, or someone has to go and repair something. I'm just considering all the workforces in that. How much of that typical workforce is? That workforce is, depending again on the industry type, varies anywhere from 30% to 80%. Let's take a middle number, 50%. Okay, and all of us who are listening this podcast, you can take that book, pen and paper, and you can see that your industry will lie in the number of people I'm talking about will on an average land. So if it's a 10,000 crores revenue company, 5,000 to 15,000 people, and out of that very easily somewhere around 2,000 people to about roughly about 12,000 people will be on the road all the time. Yeah. In corona times or in pandemic times or in special situations, we might say no, not all the time, but as soon as something unlocks, people are there. They have to do, that's their bread and butter. Someone who is from logistics supply chain, they cannot sit, they have to service the market, they have to go and make those shelves, fill those shelves. There are people who are going to be on road. Now, if you look at through the human resources data, if you look, typically what you would see is that 10% of these people would at some point of time have taken a holiday, chutti. Why would they do that? Not because of any other reason. So there are these standard holidays that people take, but over and above, what we find is, and through the industry, I'm not just saying based on my experience, if you look at the industry statistics, what we see is 10% of these people take a holiday. Why? Because either they have met an accident or they have been part of an accident. Okay, now let's take the 10,000 crores one. Why I was saying that. If you take 10,000 crores worth of company revenues, and if it has typically about 8,000 people who are on the road or 7,000 people who are on the road, I'll take the 8,000 number as I said earlier. Now 8,000 people, if you take who will be either doing, who will be on road, sales and marketing services, anything, logistics, everything you encompass it and keep it, block it in it. Out of this 8,000, if we say 20%, that's 1,600 people. So 1,600 incidents. And when I say 1,600, it means that 1,600 days they are off work. They are not doing work. And if you look again from the industry type, they have every person has a certain amount of value associated with them, which has a direct impact on the business. I'm not saying I'm giving a tag or a value to a life, not at all. Don't mix that with this. There is no value to human life. But I'm saying that as a business, from an economic standpoint, every employee is worth a value that when they put in that work on that given day, the company gets a return on some revenues or investments and things like that. So things move forward. That number, if typically varies from 20,000 rupees per employee per day to roughly about 2 lakhs or 1.5 lakhs. So that's the way to look at it. And plus these people are from varying bands and job grades and bandwidths. So if you're looking, let's take an example of roughly about 40,000 rupees or 50,000 rupees per person.
Per day.
So if per day, yes, per person, per day, per employee. Yeah, even a contract partner. Yeah.
Got it. And this is across multiple industries.
Multiple industries. So what's the value we are reaching? So 1,600 times 50,000 is roughly about 8 crores. Now, if a company invests something like what you're trying to do in SafetyConnect. Yeah, you're not asking for the moon. If you're asking for a service, and if you're asking for a contract, and providing, and say if we are able to bring this down by 50%,
Mhm.
50% enhancement in productivity. Now, what does 8 crores mean in a business of 10,000 crores? uh, People might say, hey, it's just 0.08%. But if you take a quarter on quarter, companies don't rise by 100% or 200%.
Mhm.
Fair big brands, they say that, our margins improved from 24% to 24.5% or 24.3%. Or they say, oh, it came down, it's good operating margin, we came down in our operating margins from 24 to 23.8. Now this 0.08% is a big number in
Yeah.
that, and that is where the company has a tangible effect, and the employees bring that kind of a value. And just imagine, there are the other ancillary costs also, which means that when the companies have these kind of an incidents, fairly established enterprises, Tanmay, and everyone, or all the audience who is hearing, there is a certain amount of indirect cost. That means some insurance cost goes with it, which is paid by the group company or the company through its group insurance link schemes. There are
Yeah.
certain aspects like reimbursements, things that happen, and the person doesn't just come back the same day.
Yeah.
There is a rehab that happens usually, even if it's a small incident, because it takes a lot of indirect costs that you add up and bunch it up. If you are able to bring down the accidents and incidents, not only does your insurance premium go down substantially for the following year, your productivity goes up. It has a direct impact on your bottom line. And then at the same time, just by investing somewhere, you can continue to maintain that trajectory of either improving, bringing your incidents down, or maintaining a best in class zero harm or any kind of a behavior within your company. And it definitely helps the employee morale. So when you look at it, what we all as a community need to understand is that there is a productivity improvement that happens with all of this, and there is a return on investment. Now, for example, the product that you're trying to sell, for example, I'm just giving an hypothetical, there are many other companies, like I saw the other day on Shark Tank India and Shark Tank USA. I've been following it for many years. There has been a return on investment that they ask. Now, the kind of product that you're talking about and the kind of money that you'll ask from enterprises, it will be roughly, it will be say about 40, 51 crores. The return on investment is less than 1 quarter, 3 months for a company of size of 10,000 crores. So
Yeah.
that's the way to look at it. And I'm not just saying that, 10,000 crores company needs a 50 lakh suite from someone. If it's 1,000 crores, it needs a 10 lakh suite. But
Yeah.
it's the mindset that, but the return on investment will almost remain the same. It's the mindset, because lesser the people, the lesser it will be the cost. The more the people, the lesser will be the cost in terms of economy of scales, but the overall size of the numbers will be larger. So that's the way to look at it. And return on investment and all of this is months, not even years. And it brings the employee productivity and morale to a different level. The care part of it comes in. So that's all. That's what I wanted to say, Tanmay.
Very, very interesting. I also read an OSHA report some time ago which spoke about the cost of a fatality in the US itself. And of course, life is life is invaluable.
Yeah,
But also over and above that, for an organization, that OSHA report stated that
yeah,
the direct and indirect cost ranges anywhere from $500,000 to $1 million
yeah,
for a fatality. So that's huge.
yeah.
Also, in addition to that, all these large companies, these are all publicly listed companies where brand image is also something which is very, very important.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And that itself is a few millions in terms of brand damage that happens because of a fatality or a major accident. And when companies are perceived as somebody who really care about safety, and when they're able to show that there are no major accidents, or at least it's coming down and there are no fatalities happening, that is a big, big plus in the minds of potential hires as well.
yeah. And Tanmay, on that, I would also like to say something. See, one of the reasons why the road safety side of it doesn't take a priority or a precedence is because if you go on the offices side of it or on the manufacturing side of it, there are enough regulations. So if something happens in a manufacturing setup, there are so many regulators who can come in and then scrutinize the company very closely, look through a very small lens, and try to magnify it, and then try to have a lot of reputation effect, as you talked about. Now in the road side of it, what happens is, it's like it's not something where there is a fixed set of regulator.
Mhm.
There is no regulatory control or a framework that exists. So it's very difficult for us, people like us, professionals like us, to fathom and say that, this is what is happening for your business, this is the loss, this is the damage you're having for your business. You have lost 10 people, 15 people, or 20 people on road in the last year. Now that they might because there are no notices that come out, there are no aspects. So the best way to address this is to tell the companies, by the way, along with those 10 people, you had so many injuries also. Because it's a behavioral thing, it's a pyramidal thing, that something has to go wrong for it to build and become something really worse.
Mhm.
So if you look at it, yes, I agree with you. There is a loss, because the companies have to pay out the,
Yeah.
the based on the policies and compensate for that those employees. And if we club all that, I like that what you have said. If we club all of that, and if we club the injuries and the people staying off work, it's a tremendous investment, and it makes a lot of difference for the companies.
Yep, absolutely. So the right thing for somebody new into the space is to, of course, use this kind of data and then build a proper case and then take it to the leadership team, present it, and then maybe show success stories also. Anything else you feel they need to keep in mind while putting this in place?
Yeah. So I would request every safety professional to think like a business professional. Yeah. So when they are going and telling something to business leaders, remember one thing: the business leaders are not safety professionals. They are not technical. They will not understand till you make your language and till you put across your case in a very simplistic, non-complex, and organized manner. I'll give you an example. If there is a fatality, or if there are more incidents, let's not talk about fatality, but let's talk about incidents. If there are more incidents that are happening in your organization or in any organization, I need not be a safety professional. You just have to seek, you just have to say, what did my insurance, how much did it rise in the last 5 years? What's the trajectory, insurance premium paid by the company? What is it, how have the leaves been, what is the breakdown of the holidays that people have taken? HR will have a data, anonymous data, that will come out. What are the reasons for those holidays or leaves? That will come out. And then you can go and ask, every organization knows that there is what I said earlier, there is a cost of, because of sales and marketing and servicing, there is a cost that is associated, which we gain from each employee being employed, or each contract partner being employed. So all that comes out. Do that simple math. Take that one slide, stand it in front of the leader, and say, by the way, I can save you not only this much for the company, but I can increase your loyalty, and I can make sure that whoever is coming to our workplace or going and attending any other work goes back home safely, the very way they came. And that those are the powerful statements. It's the way we structure, it's the way we communicate has to become more business like. Then the fraternity will lift everything around it.
Got it. Understood. So basically, talk numbers to the people who are making those decisions because that is what resonates best with them. Yes.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And are there any other secrets that are there to kind of enhancing the safety culture within an organization?
Oh, definitely. Yes. So when we talk of safety culture, what are we talking about? It's not about telling someone, wear your helmet, or in another setup saying, hey, wear your goggles. It's not about that. The culture, and we use the word culture. Culture is not something that is built in a day. We all agree with that. It takes
Absolutely.
years and years of evolution. Okay. But what you have to give is there are two aspects that have to be clearly told to everyone in the organization, right from leadership level to the last man on the ground, to say that if you, what do you see yourself as an organization? It always has to be an enterprise first approach. It never has to be an individual approach. To build a culture means organization has to become a living thing. So for that living thing to happen, what you have to ask everyone is, what kind of an organization do you want to be around with? What do you want it to be? What are the right things to happen? And what you would hear is that people start telling things where they start owning things. So I'll give you an example on that. If there is a fire alarm, okay, in an office setup, and if people just ignore it and start working on it, and someone comes and says, hey, there is a fire in the next door, we need to evacuate, then everyone rushes and evacuates. When there is same scenario, there is a fire alarm and someone dials the security guy or the emergency number and says, what happened? Why is there a fire alarm? And then that guy says, let me go and check and I'll let you know. And that guy checks and rushes back and says, hey, you need to evacuate. There is a fire alarm happening next door. That's the second culture type. The third culture type, there's a fire alarm, and the ideal culture which we think today, we have the fire alarm and we walk out and we go to the assembly area and we wait for ourselves to be counted so that company knows I've not gone home, I'm staying here and I'm safe. But this is not the ideal state. The ideal state is, and that's the culture part of it, is that actually when a fire alarm goes, there are some set of professionals who have to say that let me go and seek out for people who are there in those server rooms sitting somewhere in the office who can never hear that fire alarm, and dig them out and ask them to come out with me. So it has to be a cohesive and interdependent culture. And that can only happen if every individual in the company starts caring for each other, because they see a company in a way that only they understand. So to build that culture, to build that cohesiveness, it has to be a two-way traffic where the company policies have to sync in line with what the employees think for the company. Just like we think for an HR policy, the safety policies of the company also have to think like that. What we do is we do a copy and paste of the ISO safety policies or the OSHA safety policies. Ask the safety policies to be made by the employees, and then it has to be pushed up. Right now, what happens is if you ask the organization or any employee, tell me the safety policy of this company, 99% of it, them will not be even able to say 10% of it because they have never read it. They don't know it. It's posted in some frame over there in the office when you enter at the reception or somewhere in the office area or at the coffee station or at the food station. That's not the way. A safety policy or any policy about care has to be built by the employees. Then they will remember it. And what's the right way to do it? Is for employees to poll it out. Say, what kind of a culture do you want to see? What is it that brings you more, empowers you, or brings you more value to it? That's the one side of it. Sorry, I'm giving a long bound answer, but that's the first side of it. Then Tanmay, the second side of it is about making sure that there is ample reward and recognition. What happens with safety is there is usually a policing culture. If something goes wrong, we tend to thrash and bash. But what we forget is we never ask why did the wrong happen, because someone might have pressured the person to do something wrong. If there is some guy on a sales who has to go and reach at that sales location where he has to go and meet a client, and if the person is rushing on the road, going through the one way on the wrong side, trying to bypass the signals and reach over there, it's because he's under pressure, not because he likes to do it like that, but because he's under pressure from the org. Whereas if he's empowered to say that, hold on, I'm late because of the traffic conditions, I'm late because of something else that got spilled over, Can we meet 15 minutes later? Yeah, that's the best way to move forward and get things right. And what we do is we penalize the very person who was trying to rush. Whom was he trying to rush for? He was trying to rush for not only him, but for the enterprise as well, because it was a
Right.
sales pitch that he or she wanted to make.
So,
And that is exactly what we are doing it wrong. Even on the roads, we are seeing that people hurry and we tend to blame them. But there is a lot of things that precede them, the way they behave it, whether it's a Swiggy guy, a food delivery guy, or a Zomato guy, a food delivery guy, any of the food deliveries, or it is someone from some other companies. We tend to blame, but it is what we have to think is, and I'm not saying the orgs, it's the culture that is built within the orgs, or the silos that are there within the orgs that have to change. And and that's where I'll come to the last crux of it. Whenever there is an issue or an incident, the weakest person in the team gets blamed or penalized. But whereas you have to look at what did the line do all across to encourage such a behavior. And that's where I'm coming from.
can you give an example of that?
Yeah, sure. So there is something called as a management in every company.
Yeah.
So whenever someone does something incorrect, what do we do is we tend to say that you did this wrong. Okay. But if we use a simple 5 why analysis and ask the same person, why did you, for example, if there is an accident on a road, and touch wood, if the injured person, if we go and ask him or her that why did you, what caused the accident for you, the person will say, well, I was in a hurry. And you ask the next why did you hurry? The person will say, well, I was late for the meeting, so I had to get over there, that's why I was hurrying, and that's why I jumped the signal and someone came and hit me. Next thing you ask is, why did you get late? The person will tell, well, because I had another meeting to attend in the office and
Mhm.
that overran, and then I had committed this to the client, so I had to go and meet that client, that's why I had to start rushing. And then you ask, why did that meeting overspill, or why did you go over there? Can that meeting not be taken virtually? Why had to be you to be present? And such nitty-gritties. And you would come to know, no, there is an expectation in the company, in my company and with my boss, that I should he or she should be able to see my face
Mhm.
and give an instruction. So who is the root cause of all this? Not just the person. It's a set of things that made the person responsible. So when you look at it, it's the management that we don't tend to blame, because we say, oh, they are the highest set of leaders, highest set of people, or middle management, senior management, or lower management. They are the people, they are the bosses. We cannot go against them. And that's why who gets penalized? The lowest one in the rank. And for someone who is sitting in the organization, for someone like me, I take a step back. And one should have the courage to say, no, it's not this person only. It's this thing that, and that is where the culture starts changing, because we start acknowledging the real root cause, the white elephant, or the
Mhm.
real elephant in the room. And that's where the difference occurs.
And but so for a person like you who is who's kind of going to be the bridge between the people on the field, the people actually doing work, and the management when it comes to safety, how do you how do you tell them that, hey, you need to change things, or rather at an organization or at a management level you need to change things? Is that a difficult conversation for you to have with them?
If you go without emotions, it won't be a difficult conversation to have. Because moment you have emotions in such conversations, then you are taking a bias along with you when you go inside. Remember one more thing, as I said earlier, that the other person is not a safety professional. That person is just trying to do their job. He's pushing his sales colleagues so that he or she gets more sales, and it's in
Correct.
the end for the org. And that's what we all have to recognize. So what do we need to do is we need to give a choice, but it has to be a choice in such a way where we are asking the baby to say, do you want to sleep 5 minutes from now, or do you want to sleep 10 minutes from now? We are telling the baby to sleep, but the baby feels that it has got a choice, that it can sleep 5 minutes from now or 10 minutes from now.
Mhm.
Okay. And that's the fool's play that we have to play. So when we go towards, and when we have to have a conversation, such a conversation with a leader where something has taken place wrong, and we have to go and tell the leaders, all we have to say is, look, We know the incident has occurred, and we know we all feel bad. But let me ask you a question. In retrospect, what would you have done differently? What would you have said to the person had you known that this kind of a thing would have happened? And that's when the conversation starts. And so it's all about, and see, there are certain places, there are certain people, there are certain cultures where you will find a wall. Yeah. But what you have to understand is, you have to understand where are they coming from to build that wall around them, or have such a resistance around them. And what you would typically see is two things. One is ignorance, and second one is smartness. So wherever you see an ignorance, you can have such a kind of a conversation, what I was alluding to earlier, where you can say that what would you have done retrospectively, and what is it that you would like to do now, and how would you like to take it around, how would you like to empower your employees, and at the same time give them message that we care for you, we really like you, and we want you to be safe. And those conversations start occurring, and then rewarding people according to that. Like you talked about, Tanmay, that when before this podcast, that how you have rewards and you have point system, and you tell people how to behave, how to improve behave. That's a wonderful thing that you have on your apps. That means what you are indirectly saying is see, that's the fun part of it. That's a gaming side of it. The psyche is that if I'm at 60 and you're telling me you do these things and I'll get to 70, I would love to do that. I love to do the those 5 things to get to 70. And next time you will say, oh, you have got 70 points. You want to reach 100. By the way, if you do these things, you will get 75 or 80. So you have constantly hooked me onto something, and I'll keep improving that, and I'll keep doing it. What a wonderful thing in your app. So same way, you're giving them that rewards and recognition to say, okay, you are today here. You have had so many incidents last year. And by the way, you have come here, your productivity has improved, your people morale has improved, your 360 degrees feedback has improved. What a wonderful thing. So they are on a positive trend journey. But if you have someone who is a wall because of smartness, remember one thing, you cannot wake a man who is pretending to sleep. You can wake a man who is sleeping, but not pretending to sleep. So during that case, don't break your wall or waste the energies or waste the effort. Go to the next level. Go to each one of us has someone or the other in the organization. It need not be higher up. Usually we tend to escalate, but around the organization who has an influence over them. And you have to go and make that influence. But if something is incorrectable, you have to pull the trigger. And that kind of an authority one should have, and that kind of what we call as forcefulness, we should keep with us. But it has to be the last. It has to be restrained. But if something is wrong intrinsically, and it's smartness, and it's incorrectable, it's irreparable, it's better that you ask the person to say that you don't fit this culture. You will not fit in this culture. Maybe somewhere else, but not this place, please. That's the way.
And do you see this difference in receptivity to these kind of safety initiatives based on geography, nationality, and all of that? Or do you think it's kind of like the same thing across the entire globe?
Yep. Thanks for asking that. And as someone who has worked overseas and not for a few months, okay, many years and decades. So I can tell you one more thing, is that we all are humans. We are made of flesh and blood.
Yeah.
Okay. But the frequency of mistakes we make across the globe, geographies, is different. So I might make a mistake of once every 12 months, and in one geography, and in another geography, I will make once every day. That's all. That's the only thing. But everyone, we all are humans. There is an error associated with us. Even, I don't know whether you're aware, but even pilots, they have an error frequency. Okay, once in 1,000. So if you have, so there is a very beautiful statistic. Let me just let you that know. So this was statistic for accidents that were studied over hundreds and hundreds of years to know that how does a human error occur? Not only in airline industry, but nuclear industry, manufacturing, oil and gas, many things, many industries across. And what they found out is that if you don't give someone to read a procedure, okay, if you don't give someone to read a procedure, then 3 out of 1,000 times they will commit a mistake. That means once every 300 times. I have a repeatability action. 1 out of every 300 times, without that procedure, I will make a mistake. But if you give me a procedure, okay, you say step 1, you should do this. Step 2, you should do this. Step 3, you should do this. Then that frequency comes down to 1 every 1,000. So now you see you have more than doubled your error rate. It comes down significantly.
Yeah.
And that's why what we see is whenever we enter the aircrafts, we see that the pilot or the co-pilot has a book next to them and they're doing all these checks. This checks is because you focus onto the work indirectly. You're focused onto the job. You're not distracted with things around you. And you're just doing what is right. So same way in an organization with leaders and with people around, all you have to do is you have to keep them focused to the song that you want them to dance. And the best way to do that is you have to tell them in their words what they need to read according to their business, because that's what they have studied, they have learned, and they understand the best. So you have to talk in their language. So with a finance professional, I will talk in terms of return on investment. With a sales professional, I will go and talk in terms of productivity. Okay, number of sales, successful sales I will hit, number of hits I will make. In terms of marketing, what I would say to them is, look, if you are able to have this, you will have more campaigns that will be successful for you because more people are there on the road for you. In terms of manufacturing, I will say you can make more products more effectively without increasing more manpower, just by doing this simple efficiencies. Yeah. In terms of supply chain or the service, I can say that they can service more in a given year. If they're servicing 99%, they can service 99.8%. And so more services means more money revenues back into the system, or more reputation that comes back that this is a highly reliable company, that when anything breakdowns or is on the verge of the breakdown, they come, they fix it, and then they go back. So I have good uptime. I don't have hardly any downtime. That's the way. So selling it to function, even in supply chain, we can say that, if you do this, you are hedging your supply chain for any of the shocks that you will have, any business in eventualities, because somewhere something breaks down, the supply chain takes a hit downstream as well as upstream of it. So that's the way to look at it.
Okay, so it's not so much of like looking at, okay, different nationalities or different geographies are reacting in so and so way, but it's even in that particular geography or in that particular organization, look at the different departments and then speak their language.
Yes.
And that is going to be instrumental in bringing about that new initiative or process or policy and so on and so forth.
Yeah, because if you look at the number of accidents India has, everyone knows that we have the dubious recognition of being market leaders in number of fatalities and incidents all over the world. Yeah, but you look at why does it occur, when does it occur, and how does it occur. The typical thing that what we see is that it occurs during peak hours. Yeah. And the other thing that we see is that we expect to say that it happens only with young people or people with certain demographic statuses. Yes, it does occur. But if you look at the other geographies, the demographics, the statistics of it are totally different. Okay, so if you go to something like a Europe, most of these incidents occur when there is very less light, irrespective of demographics. If you go to United States, where do most of these incidents occur? When do most of these incidents occur? These incidents occur when you have no traffic on the road. Okay, people are trying to speed up, people are trying to go fast, and people are trying to have a good time. And that's when these incidents occur. So disciplines exist over there, and in Europe we can talk about it. But for the simple reason, every geography, every city, even within India, if one has to take a look, or if you go to Vietnam, even within Vietnam, we know Vietnam has the highest density of two-wheelers in the world. Yeah. So if you look at it across the geographies, Jakarta or Indonesia, Jakarta or Kuala Lumpur, you see that each one of them is different. Each one of them has a different reason for the accidents. But there is one thing common. There is one thing common in this whole world. Every family has seen someone near or dear ones or their friends have an accident. Yeah, it's more than the pandemic. Right now, if you ask how many people have had an incident today, it won't be just a few thousands. It goes in hundreds of thousands. And you multiply that over the 365 days, it's a huge number. The more number of cars on the road, the more probabilities that someone will have an incident or an accident, irrespective of geographies. And that's where technology will play a key role.
Yeah.
It will play an awesome role.
Absolutely. And these days, where we just coming back to that conversation about how culture plays an important role, right? And also the organization needs to kind of say, okay, it's all right to go a little late to your destination. But now we're seeing this huge trend of delivery within 10 minutes, delivery within 30 minutes. So what are your thoughts about something like that?
Yeah. So it's something that what do we want to wind ourselves with? What is a 10-minute delivery going to solve for us? Are we talking about ambulance or emergency? Or are we talking about something that I am craving for right now and I get it in the next 10 minutes and I'll be the happiest person on the planet? Nope. Because after 10 minutes, when I get it and I eat it or I do something with it, then 30 minutes later, I will have a next craving. We are human beings. We have been given a mind and we have been given an ambition and desire, and we always will be chasing towards it. So the point is that what are the choices that we want to make? And I'm not saying that it's a wrong thing for 10 minutes delivery, but what are the choices we are giving along with it for the companies to think about? Are we loading up the person who is going to deliver by winding them up too much? Are we going to penalize them for something when something genuinely goes wrong? Or are we going to think about what will be the person doing after chasing so much of time and effort, and what he or she is going to get in return? The best thing is to unwind all of that, because no one in this world is asking for that I need a 10-minute delivery. It is what we are feeding about, and then people absorbing it. It's like the Steve Jobs thing that, he said, give the product that you want the world to see, and then we will keep we have to make that product. The world doesn't know that such a product exists. So the same thing, same kind of service is what we are talking about. So the point is that is that going to lead to something where the world will become a better place? Absolutely not. But is it going to help anything that will do for someone who is in dire need of a medical emergency? I can understand.
Sure.
Yeah, because it's unfathomable in a country like India, especially where our city's infrastructure is so overloaded, to think that someone can deliver 10 minutes in the right way. Because the 10 minutes clock starts right from going and fetching the item to delivering it at the doorstep.
Yeah.
And I wish that some of us can show that how it can be done in 10 minutes. We'll call them superhumans, Superman. We'll give them a cape and a red underwear.
I see. We these days are in this mindset where we want everything immediately, right? We're in the instant gratification mode. So hence, yeah, there are these new systems which are springing, which are giving us access to all of these things instantly. But yes, as you rightly mentioned, how critical is it, or how do we really need it? And yeah, if it's something with respect to healthcare and so on and so forth, that's valuable. That's amazing. But also we need to understand at what cost is it coming to us at that speed.
Yep.
So yeah.
Yeah. So the people have to just, who are listening to this, have to just understand one thing. Would you put yourself in that space, in that person, and do this work on a regular basis? Or would you like someone in your near or dear ones to keep doing that? I'm pretty sure the answer lies, whatever answer you will spring out is what we are trying to convey.
Yeah, absolutely. Something that we all should mull over. Yes, definitely. So, Sharad, I think we've spoken about some very interesting and valuable things that people in the safety industry can actually look at incorporating and using this as a basis for putting in place better safety processes within the organization and getting closer towards zero harm. So now, a little on the lighter side, I was doing some research about you and noticed that you like visiting historical places.
Yeah.
So want to know more about the places you visited. Was there some place that really stood out, and what do you like about it, and how did this bug get into you?
Yeah. That's good. So as a kid and as a student, I was not an avid traveler. Okay. It's just that part of my job is when I started visiting different places, and one starts thinking, okay, let me go and explore the places. And that's where I started finding things which were interesting. So all of us are humans. I said earlier that we are made of flesh and blood, but the good part is that we all have very different ways of approaching things and
Mhm.
doing things. Um, so what I like is there are two things which I really enjoy. Is one is to see whenever I'm on a tour, personal tour as well, to visit a historical place. And first question that comes to my mind is springs to my mind is, why did they do this? What was their rationale behind doing it? And if you go to, so I have been to Southeast Asia, I've been to China. My one of my the things on my bucket list is Japan. Japan is something that I want to explore, and I'll be doing it with my son.
Mhm.
I was waiting for the Japanese Olympics, but because of pandemic, I was not able to travel. But I definitely want to visit Japan. So Japan, China, uh, including US, United States, uh, Europe. I just love traveling. And what I saw is that it depends on how. So if you look at Taj Mahal,
Mhm.
okay.
Yeah.
Now what we know is that Taj Mahal was built as a monument of love and everything. But look at what the king thought. The king wanted to pour in money to show his love,
Mhm.
okay, to show how much he loved someone. If you travel to Egypt, it's about the king's afterlife has to go the right way. But have we all ever thought, why were the pyramids built the way they were built? They could have put a simple tomb with some things around it, but why did they build such huge structures? There is a rationale behind it, and I will leave the audience to know why did they do that. Such huge structures, huh? Even Taj Mahal, huge. But the rationale behind building a pyramid was completely different to Taj Mahal. Okay, we all like to go to the seven wonders, old seven wonders, and say, "Ah, this is I saw the I saw the Giza pyramid." But there
Mhm.
is a rationale behind it. Now, if we look at the Pisa, the Leaning Tower of Pisa in Italy, there is a rationale behind why it is. And exploring that rationale is what I really enjoy. It gives me a high.
So
Okay.
you should tell us about the pyramids then.
Okay. So, what we all think is that the pyramids were, that is a true thing, that the pyramids were built for the uh, the royals to have money in their afterlife or all the comforts in their afterlife which they enjoyed in this life. That's true. That's completely right. And we know that all these pathways, secret pathways, were built so that people don't uh, snatch the treasures and take it with them. That's also true. But why did they build such huge structures? The huge structures were built because Egypt, we like it or not, was master in astronomy. So each pyramid that they have built signifies a star,
Mhm.
which today we are exploring, or signifies a constellation, which today we are exploring. And by the way, all the things that we are exploring today, and we are saying that, oh, in so and so constellation, there is a planet like Earth, and you can connect it to a pyramid in Egypt because it's pointing to that constellation. So when they thought about afterlife, they didn't just think about, okay, let me just provide everything for this person. They thought that there is such a thing that exists, and that's how this pyramid has to look like, or it has to point towards that. And
So
if you see
planetary
how,
alignments to
yeah,
take
and
into
all the
consideration.
pyramids, perfect, and all the pyramids are aligned in a way where they all are they all are pointing towards something or the other in the sky. And you cannot have a small structure do that. You need a humongous structure to really point towards those constellations and those stars. Then only it is possible and feasible. So all these people who were there, they were astrophysicists, they were astronomers. Yeah. And that's the beauty. Even the same thing exists with the temples in India. So we think about Raja Raja, we think about Madurai Meenakshi, or we think about the Konarks, right? But every temple in India was telling us a story in those days. It was not about the glory of the civilization, which might have been there, but the civilizations were advanced.
Yeah.
They knew more than what we knew. So another thing which I explored is that uh, in India, in ancient India, in Maharashtra, they knew in ancient times, not very long ago, they knew how to convert a red soil into a black soil back to a red soil, which we don't know today. We know that the Ashoka pillar exists, which never rots,
Yeah.
rusts. But same thing existed for the soil also. So they could grow a sugar cane and they could also grow paddy. And that is amazing.
Yeah.
Or a wheat. That is amazing. So that's where I like that's the thing thrill I get about exploring history. It's
I
fun.
think that's so fascinating because I also have a similar interest, and I've been trying to do some research and reading up about
Yeah.
these ancient monuments, temples, and so on.
Yeah.
And also we have this. I hope I'm getting the name right. The Ajanta. We have the
Ellora.
Ellora Temple, right?
Yes.
The Ellora Temple, which was carved from a single mountain.
Monolith. Yeah.
Yeah. And that's so fascinating, right? There are no debris in the vicinity. How did they carve that? And the intricacy of those carvings, I understand in the Sanctum Sanctorium,
Yeah.
there is a deity there, and the deity has a crown. And on that crown, there are skulls on it. And the skulls are carved in such a way that they're hollow. So how would you actually carve out something hollow like that? That's so fascinating. And also, if you come down south to Hampi, you have these musical temples.
Exactly.
Musical temples, I've noticed that in different parts of a particular pillar,
Yes.
it makes different sounds. That also means that that particular stone or rock has different densities in different sections.
Yeah.
Now, how do you achieve something like that? You would have had to do incorporated things like rock melting technologies and so on and so forth. And it's so fascinating, right? And I feel like today we're kind of playing catch up with the technology that we had back in the day.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And that tells us that somewhere down the line we have dropped. So the culture has evolved, what we were talking earlier. The culture has evolved, but we left a few things back along the way, which we have forgotten. And that's the thing about a culture, that you have to assimilate, and you have to be symbiotic.
Yeah.
One has to be symbiotic, that you build over one over another, not abandon something over. And
Yeah.
the same exists even in Africa. Africa also has a very rich history. So we talked about Egypt, which is part of the African continent. But if you go to Masai Mara, or Kenya, or even Nigeria, and the South Africa, and the Ugandas and the Botswanas, there is a lot of rich history associated not just with humans, but also with animals, and how the evolution. It's an amazing. So history is there everywhere around us. The fort that we talk about, or the first civilization that grouped together, uh, happened in one of the most remote places on the earth, and which we are still exploring, and it's in Africa. It's in the
Mhm.
it's in the Horn of Africa, and that's where people created the fort-like structures, which got imported to India, or
Okay.
the Middle East, and all this. They fortified themselves.
Mhm.
And the thing was, that when they created forts, wherever you create the forts, like in Maharashtra, we see that there are forts around.
Yeah.
Okay, so those forts are nothing but the borders,
Mhm.
the lines along which the kingdom is carved around.
Mhm.
That's the concept. And what we might feel is, okay, there is a fort here, but I can walk very easily on the land around here. No, it's not like that. It's a gateway. It's
Mhm.
an absolute gateway to get inside. And if you try, anyone tries to sneak in, they can easily spot you.
Mhm.
It's an amazing way in which the cultures built and evolved themselves.
Yeah.
Today, today the forts don't exist, but the Google map exists and the satellites exist. Through that, we map the borders.
Yeah. That's true. That's true. No, this is such a fascinating topic to discuss about, and then I think if we do another podcast, that itself can be a separate large topic in itself, and I would definitely want to do that sometime with you in the near future. But just coming back to safety, right? And
Hmm.
now we're coming towards the end of this the podcast, and if you had to leave the audience and people who are in the safety industry or getting into the safety industry or people who want to innovate in the safety industry with a message, what would that be?
Yeah. So my message to them would be that as safety professionals, we tend to focus too much on our construction safety, too much on our manufacturing safety, which is the right thing. But remember that any company, you're just focusing on 40 to 50% of your workforce. The remaining 50 to 60% of your workforce exists outside of this, and their safety is very, very important. So when we call ourselves as safety professionals, we are not just safety professionals for a select group, we are the safety professionals for an entire group. So count them also. Their performance also matters equally for the organization, just like the other construction or manufacturing or any other thing. So when you're trying to do that, it's a it's an area, or it's a business that you haven't much understood about. Sit with those leaders, talk to those leaders, understand it, and then leverage the technology. Because on that side, what you will have is, you will have the most difficult thing of convincing someone that I need EHS or I need safety professionals here, and by the way, I need to have an intervention like SafetyConnect to say that, I need apps on my sales teams or marketing teams or teams that are there on the field to understand and to have that kind of a data where it says that who is driving safe and who is not. It matters for the company, and if you don't do it, no one else will do it. And being a safety professional, it is your prime responsibility to make sure that there is a focus on that side of the business. Please focus on that. And there is tremendous value that is for the safety professionals. And then for the entrepreneurs such as you, Tanmay, okay, there is a lot of scope and work and value that can be unlocked in this side of the business. India is moving more towards, very strongly towards, services business. We talked about this 10-minute delivery. We talked about India moving towards more towards online. Someone has to service that online work that happens on the ground, which means larger warehouses, more people on the roads, and more opportunities for people to grow and become better, have a good living, have a good employment. So I would urge that, instead, so be a partner in this, make the companies move in the right direction. And I'm pretty sure that over the next 3-4 years is going to be very exciting, because as more and more online unicorns are coming up, the government has to tighten itself, because workers' compensation, workers' well-being will be a prime focus. We have seen that with Walmart, and we have seen that with Amazon in US and in Europe. It is coming. It is going to come and hit India at some point of the time. And so companies such as yours, who are innovating, who are trying to bring technology, who leverage technology and bring product solutions, you will have a great field day. So partnering with businesses such as uh, pharma, such as FMCG, and the online platforms are the right way to go. Yeah. And it is something that associating with bigger brands and the right brands at the very beginning, whoever comes and gets it done earlier, trust me, you guys will be the next unicorns, because services has a side to it. There are certain services which are going to mature, but these are the services that will pick from behind them and then look at the long run. Now let me give you an example on this. Okay, when the car companies came, when the cars came in this world, or the airlines came in this world, those companies saw a big uh, upside on their revenues, sales, everything. But once they plateaued, guess who were the companies in that market, automobile market, that took over from them? The companies that were making the seat belts.
Mhm. Okay.
Takeda, we have heard about it a lot, or the airbags,
Mhm.
right? So those are the companies that generated a lot of revenue for these companies. Remember, in the car market, it's not the car that gives them the sales or the revenues. It's the services that they sell after that car, which is maintenance services, is what generates the revenue for the car companies, automobile companies. That's the real value. That's where they get their most bang on the buck. So same thing exists with you. And that's why after safety professionals, I'm talking about entrepreneurs who are in this journey, because any variables which are there, which people are going to use on their bikes or cars, including their bikes and cars, which can also fit with the right systems, will be the next big data pool or the data mining that these companies will be leveraging in future. Because not only does it have a safety side to it, but it has a lot of data mining which they can use it for their benefit to enhance and make their businesses more efficient with real-time data. This is the value you all will unlock. So keep on that path. It's the right path. Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Sharad, for your time. There was so many valuable insights that I got, and I'm sure all of our listeners and viewers got. And thank you once again for coming. And it was an absolute pleasure. And we look forward to having many more such sessions with you. Thank you very much.
My pleasure equally. My best wishes to SafetyConnect and all of you over there. And all I will say is to everyone, be safe, be responsible, and be honest. Thank you.
Thank you.